I never imagined that one signature, one stroke of ink, would be what saved my life. Not from death, but from destruction. For years, I lived in what others called a perfect marriage. Beautiful house, handsome husband, stable job, smiles for the world. But behind closed doors, I was slowly disappearing. My husband, Richard, had a way of making me feel like everything I owned, even my own thoughts, belonged to him. He'd say things like, "We're one, Clara, there's no yours or mine." And at first that sounded romantic, until I realized what he really meant. When I started earning more than him, everything changed. The man I once knew became calculating, cold, quiet, always scheming behind those charming eyes. I didn't see it then, but Richard was plotting something big, and he was patient. Beloved, before I tell you what he did, let me welcome you to Unbroken Courage. I'm Amara, and I want to thank you for joining me today. If you're watching right now, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. I love hearing from our beautiful Unbroken Courage family across the world. Now, lean in and listen carefully, because this story is one that shows how wisdom, even when it looks ordinary, can turn what the enemy meant for evil into your greatest victory. Clara sat across from me in my counseling office. Calm, composed, but her eyes carried the weight of someone who had seen betrayal up close. She took a deep breath and said, "Amara, I never told anyone this story before. But if my mistake and my miracle can help someone else, then I'll tell it." And so she began. It started 5 years into her marriage. Richard had recently lost his job after a failed business deal, and Clara, being the devoted wife she was, supported them with her savings. At first he was thankful, but slowly, gratitude turned to resentment. He couldn't stand the idea that his wife was the breadwinner. He would make comments like, "Clara, you're lucky I let you work. Most men wouldn't." Or, "You think this house belongs to you just because your name's on the mortgage?" She said, "I used to laugh it off, Amara, but one day I realized he wasn't joking." One morning, Clara found some documents spread out on Richard's desk. Property titles, insurance policies, even the house deed. Her name was still there, but something about the papers looked off. The signatures seemed lighter, almost faded, as though they'd been scanned and replaced. She didn't confront him immediately. Instead, she took quiet photographs with her phone and went straight to her lawyer, a man her late father had trusted for years. When her lawyer saw the papers, he frowned. "Clara," he said, "these look tampered with. Don't sign anything he gives you without me seeing it first." So Clara followed his advice. Weeks later, Richard handed her a refinancing document to sign. He smiled sweetly, claiming it would lower their interest rate, but her lawyer had already taught her to check every line before signing. She noticed one small thing. Her name was written in smaller font than before. It was subtle, almost invisible. She played along. She smiled, signed, and told him she'd drop the copy at her office later. But instead, she went straight to her lawyer's office and filed the original under her legal record. That one move, that one simple act of obedience would later expose everything. Months passed. Clara said Richard began acting strangely confident again, almost smug. He even suggested she take a short vacation. "You've been working too hard," he said. She didn't suspect much at first, but her spirit felt uneasy. "I didn't want to believe my husband could be that wicked," she told me, her eyes glistening. When she returned home from the trip, her keys didn't fit the lock. Inside the house, she could hear voices, lawyers, her husband, and what sounded like real estate agents. When she finally got in, she saw her furniture labeled with stickers, "Sold." "Richard, what's going on?" she asked, trembling. He smiled coldly. "Clara," he said, "you're standing in my house. You can leave quietly or I'll have security escort you." That moment shattered her, but she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She simply looked at him and said, "All right, you do what you must." Then she walked away, not realizing her quiet strength would soon become his undoing. That night, she went straight to her lawyer. He looked at the copies she had saved months earlier, the true documents with the original signature and timestamp. "Clara," he said, "this man has committed fraud, and not just any fraud, property falsification. We'll take this to court." Richard had reprinted all the property titles, replacing Clara's ownership with his own forged version. He had even submitted the fake documents to the land registry. But what he didn't know was that the registry had already received a certified copy of the original, the one Clara filed months earlier. That innocent move to keep a record with her lawyer was what saved her entire future. When the investigation began, everything Richard tried to hide came out. Offshore accounts, secret communications, false signatures. He was arrested for fraud and forgery. And that's when Clara said something I'll never forget. "Amara," she said, "when you live in truth, even your quiet actions become weapons of protection. God hides wisdom in the small things we do." Beloved, that's how life works. The very trap the enemy sets for your downfall often becomes the proof of your deliverance. Richard's downfall wasn't Clara's revenge. It was justice. He ended up losing not only the house but his reputation. And Clara, the woman he tried to erase, walked back into her home with peace, power, and the document that carried her signature. The signature that saved her. After the court ruled in her favor, Clara said she didn't feel triumph, just silence. The kind of silence that follows years of noise, manipulation, and confusion. She looked out of her living room window into the same garden where she once planted roses with Richard and whispered, "I won, but why does it feel like I lost something?" I told her gently, because justice doesn't always feel like victory. Sometimes it just feels like truth finally breathing again. She nodded slowly. "It's true, Amara. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace." For months, she'd lived in fear, hiding documents, avoiding confrontation, playing calm while her world trembled beneath her. Now it was over. Richard was sentenced. His accounts were frozen, the property legally restored to her. But something was missing: healing. Clara said, "People think freedom comes the day your abuser is punished, but real freedom came when I forgave him." I leaned forward, listening. "What made you forgive him?" She smiled faintly. "I realized the real prison wasn't the marriage, it was my silence. The moment I decided to speak, to act, to protect myself, that's when I broke the chains." She told me she visited him one last time in court. He was in handcuffs, head bowed, looking smaller than she'd ever seen him. When he looked up and saw her, his lips trembled. "You set me up," he said weakly. "No," Clara replied. "You set yourself up." Those words carried more power than any revenge could ever deliver. The irony was cruel. The same document Richard used to try and steal her life became the evidence that destroyed his plan. Every forged page led investigators back to the untouched original she'd filed away, the signature that saved her. Clara later learned that Richard's friends, the ones who once praised his business genius, abandoned him. The man who mocked her for being too cautious, too thoughtful, was now being mocked for his downfall. She said, "It's strange, Amara. I never prayed for him to be punished. I just prayed for the truth to show." And beloved, that's something I want you to remember. When truth is your foundation, time will always expose lies. You don't have to fight with flesh and blood. Wisdom will fight for you. After that, Clara started over completely. She sold the old house and bought a smaller place by the ocean. Every morning, she walks by the shore and watches the sunrise, whispering her gratitude. Not because everything turned out perfectly, but because she found peace in knowing she didn't lose herself in the battle. She told me one last thing before she left my office. She said, "Amara, I used to believe my strength came from fighting for my marriage, but now I know it came from fighting for myself." That line stayed with me because, beloved, life will test you with betrayal, with deceit, even with love that turns sour. But your courage, your quiet, consistent courage, is what keeps your story from ending in defeat. The same hand that signs your name to the wrong thing can sign it to the right one when wisdom guides it. Sometimes God hides protection in paperwork. Sometimes the miracle is not in escaping the trap, but in walking through it untouched. Clara's story is more than legal drama. It's a reminder that wisdom doesn't shout, it whispers. And when you follow that whisper, even the smallest act of foresight can save your destiny. So if you're listening to this today and you've ever felt tricked, betrayed, or stolen from, I want you to remember Clara's courage. She didn't scream, she didn't curse, she didn't fall apart. She used wisdom like a sword, quiet, sharp, unstoppable. And in the end, the very trap meant to destroy her exposed the truth. That, beloved, is what I call unbroken courage. Thank you for watching today's story. If you were touched by Clara's journey, please take a moment to share this video. You never know who needs to hear it. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to connect with you. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new Unbroken Courage story. Until next time, remember, wisdom is your greatest defense and courage your eternal companion.